okay, by far Photoshop's best feature is the layers, right? Layers in Photoshop are just excellent, and you'll probably use them more than anything, right? So this is the layers panel, and when I've opened up a photograph, you can see it's there as a background, and it will always be locked, right? So if you ever want to do anything with whatever the background layer is, you're probably going to have to copy it, right? I mean, duplicate the whole layer and delete the locked background layer. Now down here you've got the piece of paper with the corner folded up. That means to make a new layer, and the dustbin is to delete a layer, and these bits for layer masks and special effects I'll come to in a bit, right? So let's say for instance I want to duplicate this layer. I quite simply click and drag that when it wants to. There we go. Click and drag that to the new layer icon, being very careful not to hit the bin by mistake, and you can see it's created a new layer called background copy, right? Now what I'll do is I will drag the locked background layer to the bin, right? Because I might want to do something with this layer. For instance, I might want to change the opacity of this layer to make it slightly transparent. Now you can see that check background comes through, right? Because there's a transparency underneath. So if I was to save that image, it would just look paler, right? Here, right, where it says normal, this is the blending mode of the layers, and there's all sorts of fab features that this can have, right, which I'll come to in a minute. But what could we use the layers for? Well, layers is like overlays, or you know how they used to make Disney cartoons. You'd have the background, and then the clear cells would be laid over the top, you know, many different layers to create the full image. So I've got this really cool background that I found off the internet, and let me just open something else. I'll open up my city that I've used before. So here's this document that contains my city. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to use the selection, marquee selection, and I'm going to select all of that image, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go to my other document, and I am going to paste it, and that puts my city in there. Now I'll use the move tool, which also acts as the transform tool, to blow up my picture so it's the same size. I'll OK that, and there we go. I'm ready to do something. Now you can see over here in the layers I've got the city on layer 1 and the background on the background. Now by whatever means you decide, right, I'll just do it with the magnetic tool for speed, and this is, again, this is not accurate, this is just me being very slapdash just to make the point. If I was to go round this building, or these buildings I should say, very quick, and go back around the sky to where I started, right, and I get that selection, which I'll just use the marquee tool to clean up those corners. I'm holding shift to do it. There we go. And now with that area of sky selected, I'm just going to quite simply press delete. There we go. Now need to get rid of that bit as well, so let's go around there, diddly-do, back to where we started, delete that. Now okay, that's not very neat and I've not done it properly, but you can see how that has got that cool background now with the layer of the city over the top, right? Now I could argue that this is kind of an apocalyptic looking image, you know, I might be wanting to create a disaster movie poster. So let me just open another thing. I will open this image of fire that I found. So I've got this fire, so I'm going to take that and copy it onto here. So I've got this fire, right? Now I want to make it look like maybe this city, you know, that's there is burning, right? So I'll just OK that. Now in this instance I'm going to use the eraser tool to just get rid of some of that black, right? And you can see that the image behind is starting to show through, so that's got rid of that. Right, there we go, get rid of that. Here we are there. Now if you used to see that on its own, what I've just rubbed out is this. So you can see I've got that there. And I've always used, I've used my brush with the softest edge, so I don't get a sharp edge when I'm doing this, because I want the two things to blend. So there's my city, there's my background, but of course my fire is see-through by its own nature, so I can change the opacity of my fire so that it shows up in front of the city. I could also use some of my blending options. So for instance, I could use it as an overlay, right? Well, overlay didn't really work for me. Okay, let's try multiply. Well, multiply is quite interesting, but again, I don't really think that's worked for me. Screen's quite interesting, give me quite a nice effect. So perhaps I would use screen, right? All these blending options have very different effects. You know, difference has done that to it, which is quite cool, but not quite what I want. You know, linear light, hard light, exclusion, quite a cool green flame going on there. You know, hue has taken all the colour out of what is being overlapped by that layer. So you can see how layers will allow you to do things like that. Now there are other features. If I just turn off the fire and turn off the background, so I'm just left with the city, I've got this one, FX, right? So add layer style. So if I click on that, I get these blending options come up. So I could choose them straight from there if I knew what I wanted to do, or click on blending options and then this palette pops up. Now I'll try and move that out of the way. So for instance, let's say, let's click on one and see what it does. So bevel and emboss, for instance. If I were to increase the depth on this bevel, right, on the size of it, see what that's done. That's as if it's been chiseled away into the thing. You know, you can change it so it's up or it's down, and that makes it stand out like it's a carving almost. You can see this little preview here, and that's what it's done, bevel and embossed. I could click on stroke, and you can see that's now, if I just blow that up a bit, you can see it's given my cutout shape a black outline, which would of course stand out against my fire background like that. Now when you've got an effect in the layer, it puts it there like that. It gives you the effects and it tells you what it is. Now if I click on these little eyes, that hides them, so they're no longer visible. Like if I want to hide layers, I click here to turn them on and off. They're still there, they're not deleted, they're just hidden, right? Likewise, if I am completely happy with that layer, I don't want to edit it, I don't want to change it, I click on the padlock to lock it. Now I can't mess with that layer, I can't draw on it, I can't do anything because the layer is locked. So if I want to unlock it, I've got to click on the padlock beyond the layer and that will unlock it. Another thing I might want to do, let me just remove that. So if I want to get rid of that style, I can right click on there and clear layer styles, and it's gone. Let's say for instance I've got my sky there and I want to, I'll just delete these layers actually to take away the distraction. Let's say I want to mask out the mountains and that part underneath, right? I need to add a layer mask to do it, right? So if I go to layer and I go to layer masks and reveal all, right? So I've got reveal all. That's created a masking selection there, right? If I go to my gradient tool I always get this the wrong way around. I'm going to draw a gradient which goes from there to there. See, wrong way around. Right? So, I want that. Right? Now you can see what that's done is using my gradient. I'll try and get it there. That will have masked off everything under there by creating this mask on that. So if I had, I'll take this city again and I'll copy and paste that in. If I had that city layer underneath that background layer, you can see again that there's this bit of a blend going in where one layer fades into another. So that's how layer masks work. You can turn layer masks on and off and bin them completely, you know, if you wanted to. But layer masks do have some quite cool uses for applying vignettes. And that is pretty much the layers panel.